Here. Okay, welcome everybody. I'm super excited about this session. I've actually been looking forward to it as I've been vicariously living through you in WhatsApp on this particular trip, and I just can't wait to get a feel for what you all experienced on the inaugural trip of Greenland for Green Adventures. I'm Tracey Seward, and this is, we've only done this a couple times at Green Adventures where we brought participants back together as a bit of a reunion and to share stories and share photos. And I've pulled in some photos from your photo circle. But it's also just as much for those that are listening to the recording afterwards to learn from you, to live vicariously also through you, probably to get a little bit of FOMO, fear of missing out of this great trip, which again was the inaugural trip for Greenland for Green Adventures. So I know all kinds of unique things may have happened on this trip, but also some incredible experiences that even Tara was experiencing for the first time. So just super excited to take all of you, through the journey. And for those of you listening to the recording, to listen to some of the participants, not everyone could make it today. Let's jump in and let's get started. I'm Tracey Seward, and I am a trip leader now also for Green Adventures. And so some of the trips that I will lead, I just got back from Iceland, the Lagabygger trek in Iceland. Peru is on my list, the Inca Trail, and some of the treks in the Andes, as well as Mount Kilimanjaro. So if anybody out there is interested in any of those treks, feel free to reach out to me afterwards. But I'm just going to say, and I think we may have some people who have as many Green Adventures trips under their belt, maybe as I do, but some of mine from a trip leader, also from a participant perspective, I'm around 10. And so I've had it from your perspective as a participant. And for those of you that are watching this afterwards and thinking about signing up to a Green Adventures trip, I've been a participant and I've been a trip leader. The first one was with my daughter as a high schooler, and which gives you some insight into the trips that Green Adventures do lead. It's a women's trips and it is educational trips. But let's jump in. We're going to do Green Adventures Greenland today. So for all of you that are with me today, this is going to be, as I've mentioned to you as well, a bit of a fireside chat. There are questions that we're going to run through here. I'm going to show some photos that may spark some things that will take you off question, and that's absolutely okay as well. So let's jump in. One of the first questions I have for whoever wants to jump in here, Lori, I might start with you first. Because again, you've been on a ton of Green Adventures trips, I know as well too, and you're also a trip leader. But I'm always curious because these trips are all very unique and very different. What inspired you to book this one?
Okay. One, I like things that are off the beaten path. But when I stopped and thought about Greenland, and I have aside from, of course, all the people that I've met through Green Adventures, I have a wide circle of friends that are savvy travelers and worldwide travelers. And that's exciting. But I could not think of one person who had been to Greenland. And it was like super cool to think about going someplace where very few people have ever gone. And that was a huge part of my wanting to go there.
I think that's fantastic. I can't say the same. It's not even, I can't even imagine being there. So that will be on my list at some point as well too. So thank you. Anybody else? Just what inspired you to sign up for this one?
Hello. Please leave a message after the tone.
That
That
was
was
that
must be
was a
the
Matt
announcement. You
I
know,
would
um,
say I would say it was the same as Lori, the unknown, the chance to go with somebody you trust, a group that you trust, to go to an unknown place.
And a place really off the beaten path in this world. So yeah. A lot of times I hear people say, well, so and so twisted my
yeah,
arm, and I was really excited about so and so twisting my arm and I wanted to go. But
Oh, hi, Corey.
it was
I would echo the same with Lori and Gail. I think it was, it was not on my bucket list of places to go. I couldn't, I mean, it was just, there's a lot of places. But I think going to what Gail said, I've traveled with Tara quite a bit. And just, knowing that it would be, and that's what I always tell people, it's a good value, you're going to learn a lot. And it was just that much different. And knowing it was kind of I've done some of our sort of, we call it trips, survey sort of trips before, and knowing that a lot of what it's going to be is we just don't know till we get there. And, some things may not work, and there's a lot that I like about that.
I think I chose Greenland because in February my travel buddy and I, Barbara, who wasn't able to make the trip, had gone to Antarctica. So Greenland being the other end of the world sounded like a very exciting thing. So,
Yeah, I remember you saying this, I think in the pre-departure meeting.
yeah.
That's on my list as well too. And just know if Tara didn't mention it there, I know she's thinking about that one as well too. So
yeah.
So stay tuned.
All right, Karen, we're up. When Antarctica comes up.
Oh yeah, I'm totally in when Antarctica comes up.
So am I.
Me too.
Me three.
Yeah, right. We've got a whole trip.
It's full. She sold it. It's sold already.
We've got a trip booked. So I think this is always a really hard question, because there are always so many memories. There are always so many different things. And on this trip, I know that you had just a multitude of things and maybe some surprises and maybe some things that you expected. But I would ask the question again, what are one of the, maybe one or two of your top memories? And sometimes I look at this and I think, gosh, that's really hard for me to say because there are so many. And so maybe there's even a flip or a twist on this of what was a defining moment for you? So a top memory or a defining moment on this trip?
A defining moment for me was being on top of the world on an iceberg, in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it was absolutely life-changing.
Literally on top of the world. That's beautiful.
And literally on an iceberg.
And literally on an iceberg.
Cave. Yeah.
I'd say
I thought that ice cave was one of the most amazing things I ever saw. That was just, and that there's like 100 people in the world that have been there, and yeah, that was amazing. The light, the colors, the life in that thing, the way it was like had circulation, it was amazing.
Yeah, I agree with Amy. Like inside that ice cave, it was so apparent that glacier was alive and moving, and we could see water flowing and could hear it. Even I could hear it. And like, I know a bunch of us tasted the water that was dripping, and it's like, this water is like millions of years old. It was crazy, crazy amazing.
It's surreal.
Absolutely.
I can only imagine.
Being that close to the whales that were breaching, the humpback whales, that was really very exciting for me too, besides the icebergs and the glaciers, and having lunch sitting right by the glacier, and just we were the only people there, and that was just amazing.
So often we were the only people there, no matter where we were.
Mm-hmm.
So Tara,
I was going to just add to that. I think one of the things that was fascinating to me was, I don't know if it was defining, but it was interesting. I just got some of my pictures back. Was the houses they were gorgeous on the inside, but there was no plumbing. And they're just sort of that dichotomy of, looking at the outside and looking at I wouldn't call it defining. I just thought it was really interesting.
I'm flipping through a few slides here too, because I know I've seen and I'm imagining with you, and the viewers that are listening, we'll share these slides as well too. But there were photos of the houses that I saw as well too, which I think are interesting. And I remember the very first photo that I saw from Tara was this one that I will personally never forget it. And I think, whatever time this was, and I'm referring to the bottom left picture of this incredible sky. I think
Neither
this
of them.
was nighttime, perhaps, probably might even have been midnight. I can't remember, but she FaceTimed me and said, you can't even imagine this.
2 a.m.
There we are.
I took the same picture.
It's just incredible. It's incredible. And I think this is one of the experiences, in my opinion, that as I think about this trip, these are the places, and you're describing them, but they're the places that we see on television or we see in a National Geographic magazine, and we can only imagine what it would be like. But I love what I just felt as well from all of you, even tasting the water, right? And I can imagine the smells, and I can imagine just the serenity of this place. So super excited to journey here one day myself. So much ice. And it's funny to look at the photos, right? There is so much ice here. And I think, again, whether it's an ice experience or just an overall experience, what was one of the favorite experiences of each of you?
Kayaking really among the icebergs was very, very cool. And I'm glad that Susan took our picture. We were the second group. It only took us a half an hour to get dressed.
The memory of lining up for that picture is pretty fun too.
Yeah, that was funny.
And my, of course, has to be Titanic moment. Lori whistling the Titanic.
Lori, what I remember you telling me as well too. So, and I wouldn't know this, but looking at these photos, that there was a separation even of the group at this moment, right? So you were all, and I don't know if you ever came together in this moment or you were kayaking separately. Both times. Were you separate the entire time as you were kayaking?
Yes, the kayaking was divided into two groups because of the number of kayaks and the gal that went along with us kayaking. So one group went in the afternoon right after lunch. All of us joined them at that time, and so we kind of got the scoop on what the equipment that they were putting on and what the kayaks looked like and all of that. We got that to hear that whole speech. And then the second group went after dinner. So like the second group, we didn't go until like something like 7 o'clock at night or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it's still light out. I mean, because it stays light like forever. So because we had seen their experience of getting ready, we were able to get on the water fairly quickly. But that's the reason we like the whole kayaking experience was, two separate groups. And while we had very similar experiences, they had the whole experience of actually stopping and going on an island and, dogs running wild out there. And, I'll let somebody else explain the experience you had with sponges.
I think I saw something on Facebook or somewhere.
Adventures in wilderness bathroom. Yeah. It was an experience for sure.
Was that just Tara that experienced the sponge, or were there more than one person?
No, there
Tara
were
and Debbie.
Yeah. We had to cut a sponge in half so that they could both have the experience.
The second group knew not to touch the sponges.
I can only imagine also then just again, further intimacy of just being such a smaller group out there on this water. I know that I had the privilege of kayaking in Alaska in the fjords and the glaciers there, but it still doesn't feel like it compares to what I'm feeling and experiencing here from you all. Just out of curiosity, what was the gear that you all had to put on as you climbed into these kayaks in this freezing cold sea, icebergs of water? What did that look like?
Well, we had to
Everybody had dry suits.
Mm-hmm.
Dry suits, booties, gloves
The big
were
boots,
optional.
the tall boots, or were they smaller boots?
No, they were like paddling booties.
Yeah.
Over the dry suit. Yeah. And then a skirt. And it was impossible to move. It felt like
and you had to burp the suits. There was like the rubber collar around the top, and you had to burp them. And the police chief in that town was helping
oh, wow.
Susanna. He was helping us get into everything. And like I reached to do this burping and he stopped me and chastised me for having long pink fingernails in Green. He was like, why are you in Greenland with pink fingernails? He thought I was going to like poke through the rubber or rip it or something. And so like I could go nowhere near that, you know.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty funny.
I thought he was actually saying you need to have green fingernails or something here, but it was just the fingernails.
The length of them and like, yeah,
Yeah.
what are you doing? What are you doing here out in the rough? And you know,
It might have been the pink.
The pink, yeah. And Tara's eyelashes, right? I'm sure you all heard about Tara's eyelashes, right? Or you've seen the eyelashes, right? You never not look beautiful, right? In whatever way you need to look beautiful on any of the trips. So yeah.
I'll tell you another defining moment with the ice is like the first time we were in the boats, like moving from Kulusuk over to Tinny, and Tara and I were in one boat and the rest of you were all in another boat. We all didn't fit in one boat. Okay. We all didn't fit in one boat. And so Tara and I were in the second boat and we look over to see you guys pulling up to that iceberg that you eventually got out on. Of course, we didn't know any of that was going to happen. And it was like, they're stopping by that iceberg. They're getting off. They're getting off? Like they're all getting off? And like I wish you could have heard the conversation going back and forth because we could not believe what we were seeing, that you guys were actually getting off on that. And of course, then, you know, we had to convince our driver to like, yeah, we want to get off too, and you know, and join you on there. But it was surreal. And I know at that point, my the thought I was concerned about was actually jumping off the boat and being too close to the edge of that iceberg. But they knew what they were doing and they knew where to direct us and where to walk, and it was all good.
It was all about Karen diving off that boat to get on that iceberg first.
Well, they didn't
care how she was going to get back on. She was just going.
I mean, I was not worried about getting back on the boat at that point. But they didn't tell us what they were doing either. So they just kind of stopped and pulled up to the iceberg. And we were all looking around like, did we hit something? What's happening? Is there much ice? Because they'd also just told us that it was an abnormally icy season. Like they don't usually have as much ice as we experienced. And so they were having trouble at times navigating through some of the smaller like inlets and sounds. But anyway, the driver stopped the boat and he had his wife with him and his 2 kids. And his wife just sort of hopped out of the boat and everybody was milling around in confusion, wondering what was happening. And I happened to look up in her general direction and she kind of gestured to me and I was like, oh, we can get off the boat. Like I can stand on an iceberg. This is happening. And I was like on the top step about to jump off this boat when I realized like Tara is never going to let me come on another trip if I screw this up, like if I'm not supposed to be doing this. So I whipped around and I was yelling like, Inga, I'm getting off the boat. I can get off the boat, right? And she was just like, I don't do whatever. So I was like, that's all I needed to know.
It would have been a great time if they would have had a video of all our faces when we realized we could get off on that iceberg. It would have been a great video.
Totally.
It's just like little kids. So I'm envisioning, this wasn't your kayaks, right? So you're on a boat. You're on a boat. I don't know who said it. I don't know if it was Nina or Gail who said it, Karen. When I saw Karen dive off the boat, I was like, okay, I was envisioning Karen, you like diving into the water with your wetsuit. No, this is diving. This is jumping.
No,
it's a figure of speech.
Yeah, jumping off the front of the boat. But at that point, they hadn't figured out how to get us off the boat really very gracefully. So I was literally dangling from the railing at one point, trying to like reach with my little short feet, like trying to reach the ice. And it was not the most graceful of experiences, but
what an experience.
It was before they put the ladder down.
Yeah. And there's no video. There's no video of that, Karen.
Like there's a ladder. Like there's not always a ladder, guys. There was not always a ladder.
Yes.
This is Karen.
No, Lori knows about not having ladders.
Oh yeah, right.
How about Boy, have I already heard some things if I think about this question right now. A moment you were pleasantly surprised about. Boy, I wasn't expecting that. I would already have said, because I saw the sponge videos, and I'm like, that I wasn't expecting. But I'm sure there's so many others. I'm wondering who's on this rock here. Does that happen to be Tara, or is that one of you?
That's Nina.
Yeah, Nina.
Hmm.
Was that rock warm?
No,
Oh no.
but it was really windy.
Yeah.
I think this is before we got into the houses, right? We
Oh,
just,
Yeah, we were waiting for our assignments and you were laying on the rock. I took a picture quick.
yeah.
yeah, just, enjoying the
That
breeze.
was in Tinney, which is I think the whole town of Tinney was an unexpected
Right.
trip there.
I was saying to Lori that the one thing that we didn't get to do, it wasn't part of the itinerary anywhere, was having like an interaction with any of the Inuit people or women, like talking to them or whatever. We never really, except for the drum guy in the museum, we didn't have any like cultural experience like that, except staying in the Inuit houses, that it was just us in the houses. But
That's a good point.
yeah, that'd be something to add.
I love that. I pulled one in here, and it probably is right here. This is probably your
the drum guy,
right
yeah.
here. Yeah.
Jump dancer.
And it's exactly one of the curiosity questions I had. I know when we were in Alaska, right? We did walk into some different villages and had some different experiences around some of the locals, and I found it to be just incredible. So I was curious as well what traditions you found most interesting here, what you experienced, and I think, Nina, there's more that we could add to this trip. To your point.
Oh,
Well,
definitely.
what was interesting about this fellow is he left Greenland when he was young. He went to Penn State, then graduated, and then eventually told his mom or parents that he wanted to go back to Greenland and learn the language and be a drum dancer. So that was very interesting. So he was a very unusual, Greenlander, I think. So.
And his grandmother, who was very instrumental in keeping the tradition of drum dancing alive, like told him he was meant to learn this and needed to learn this.
Beautiful.
She also taught him. His story was fabulous, and his performances were so moving.
So he did dance. They don't
hit the drum part. They only hit the rim part, which was very interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Did you dance? Did everyone dance with him?
Nope.
No. Yeah.
He told stories.
Yeah, it wasn't that kind of dancing. It would be like going to a Native American dance and trying to dance with them. It would be
funny, silly. Yeah, right.
It'd be insulting. It'd be insulting. I think.
Disrespectful, maybe. Yeah.
Disrespectful.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was storytelling. He would tell us ahead of time what it was going to be about, and then each dance told a very, very detailed story.
Any other traditions that you experienced?
I guess it's kind of the kayaking.
Yeah.
Even though obviously it was modern kayak. I mean, kayaks originated in Greenland, so that was. And I thought one of the things that was interesting is our kayaking guide was coming to Greenland in the summers, I think, to teach kayaking to the native Greenlanders to kind of bring it back, if I recall that correctly.
I think you're right.
Yeah, Amy, that's an interesting fact. That was a fact I wasn't aware of. Kayaking originated in Greenland.
The kayak, the boat is a Greenland origin. Yeah.
I think what also kind of struck me going back to that was the Dutch influence, if you will, the fact that a lot of the key roles of police officer, they don't use a lot of local native folks, which I would have liked to have learned more about why.
So this picture here. Other than flying through Iceland, and some of you staying in Iceland a little longer than others here on the way to Greenland, this reminds me of Iceland a little bit as well. Just out of curiosity, for those of you who've spent time or any have done a trip in Iceland, how would you weigh the two, Greenland, Iceland, in differences?
They're completely different. I don't think you can. I personally, having been to Iceland with Corey, actually, I think they're just two different worlds.
Agree.
Mm-hmm. In what respect, Nora? For others that are listening now.
Well, I think the Iceland's more, it's more of a, I'll say metropolis, more developed. Yep. You go to Greenland, the houses don't have plumbing, which is not a problem for me. I don't care. That wouldn't have been the showstopper for me by any means. I mean, the hotels did. But I think it's just people need to understand if they're going to Greenland, they're going to, I don't want to sound, it's a developing country, really. Yeah. And so I think when you think about that, their major mode of transportation is boats. So if there's too much ice, you don't go, which we also know happened for us. I think the fact that they use, their dogs are not their pets. So you have to get over that in a hurry. And I just think you just need to recognize that you're not going to a country that's got a bunch of, big developed cities. It's going to have a lot of, for me, yarn shops or whatever it is that I like to buy. It's not there. I mean, this is a culture that's locked in for 6 months, November to May. They can't even get out. Yeah. And that's not an issue in Iceland. My opinion, it's two different countries. You can't.
Yeah, I completely agree from what I'm seeing. Yeah.
And I think also, although we didn't experience it, I think East Greenland and West Greenland are very different too. I mean, I think West Greenland, if people have been there before, it is not like, because I had friends that have been to West Greenland, and it is a bit more developed, a bit more modernized than East Greenland, which was great for us. But yeah, I agree. Like, people need to know this is a rural trip. This is kind of a harsh country. So.
Except, was anybody surprised when they walked in the grocery stores?
All the chocolate.
I was going to say more, Gail. Yeah.
Just how big and bright they were. I mean, I've been to little grocery stores in other countries, and that's what I was expecting. So to walk into these big, long, brightly lit grocery stores where they asked us not to take pictures, so you're not going to find those. I totally was not expecting that. I was really surprised. Even Tinny had a big, bright, long grocery store.
Why not take pictures?
I don't know. We're not quite sure.
Yeah. That's a curious question. But it sounds like it was, a bit of a palace. It was pretty cool. So yeah.
Well, it was more than a grocery store. It was their hardware store, their post office. You could buy dry goods, clothing, anything that you would need.
They had a little gift wrapping station in one of them.
Wow.
Right.
And that's what I started to take a picture of, and he told me not to, and I'm like, oh, okay, sorry. And then Tara was trying to take a video, and they told her to stop. So
that's interesting.
And that was two different towns.
So again, we're living vicariously through you since we can't see it in photograph. Yeah, it sounds like it's their local department store of everything. I can imagine.
Their byline was, if we don't have it, you don't need it.
You don't need it.
Yeah. They had a little bit of everything. I was most surprised by the landscape, without knowing what to expect. For whatever reason, I was expecting it to look more like Iceland. And I was surprised that, even on the approach, everything was mountainous. There wasn't the, like you drive from, Keflavik to Reykjavik in Iceland, and it's flat. You don't see anything, out onto the horizon. And this was the total opposite, mountainous, rugged. And I don't know why, but I was not expecting that. Beautiful in its own right.
And the highest incline with the hill up to the hotel.
We walked every 3 times.
What was that?
The most unclimbed, unsummited mountains in the world are in Iceland. Do you guys remember, or Greenland? Remember the guide saying that?
Yep.
Yep.
That's fascinating. And so, what I'm starting to envision for every single one of you, I'm going to put it out there now. And I just remember seeing this in the WhatsApp chat before, but every single one of you were on that first flight in from Iceland to Greenland until you turned around and went back, right? And then split. And so just out of curiosity, because I'm envisioning that moment, I'm sitting kind of in your seat right now in my head, but were you even able to see, I was fog, right? I think, right. So that approach you didn't even experience, and right, you heard him say whatever he said, too foggy, can't land, whatever it was. What was your thinking at that moment? Back to rustic Greenland, right? Yeah.
Well, this is interesting.
Yeah.
I think there was something about wine and Pringles.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, they handed out Pringles for free
on the plane.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
On the trip back from, once they told us we had to turn around, then they offered up keep us happy, Pringles and wine.
Yeah,
but we had to buy the wine.
Yeah.
But it was another testimony to Inga and to Tara, how they handled the delays, going back to the hotels. When we got off that bus, the whole bus was from the airplane, so they're lined up waiting to check into the rooms. And Tara had arranged it all on the bus before we got there. So all we did was walk in, sign a piece of paper, and get our room key. So that's a testament to her and her business.
Yep.
These are especially this one that you all experienced. There are so many unknowns, right? And you all, I can hear it in you right now. This was a part of the signing up for the trip, that it was like, let's go. There are unknowns, but Tara is always on top of and thinking 20 steps ahead when something does happen. There's something, and it's funny, that story came to me as I thought about the question that's on the screen right now. How did camaraderie enhance your experience? And I'm sure you guys had moments of, what the heck, right? And here we are. We thought we were going. But what I know that I witnessed, and again, only from afar, from clear across the world, was you return. I'm watching your WhatsApp, right? You return. I can see the smiles. I can see the split of the groups. I can see the card games. I can see the smiles still going on, because at that point, I guess, what else is there to do? But that experience, as I thought about this question, is what came to mind for me. There's a lot of flexibility, I think, in you as well. But is there something in that experience, or even beyond that experience, as you think about yourself as a unit, as a team, kind of as one energy unit, because you were on this trip? How did this enhance your experience?
I'll say, like, that first split when 6 of us went on to Greenland, and we had no idea when the next 7 would be able to join us, because the next day could have been the same thing. They could have been stopped by fog again. It could have been 4 of them got on the next flight and 3 were left behind. I mean, there were so many unknowns. But we had so many conversations of like, we've got to go up to the airport and greet them and meet them. And we talked about like, we would like put their faces on a piece of paper and take all group photos. And it was like everybody would be, pictured. I mean, we just had a ton of conversation of like, how can we be a group? How can we be a group? We can't wait to get the group back. And we actually did make it back up to the airport just in time. We tried to hitch a ride with the hotel guy, and we weren't able to make that happen. We kind of got, believe it or not, we got lost in this town that has like 2 roads.
No roads.
Not like lost, but like made a wrong turn, and then got on our way and like just barely made it to the airport, and as they were getting off the plane. But yeah, we couldn't wait. We couldn't wait to be back and be a full group again.
It was a great feeling. Really, it was a great feeling to walk into the airport and you guys are all cheering us. So it felt really good.
They came through the door one by one, and we were like, "Get
Just like you had summited the mountain, right? One by one, right? Yeah.
And you're really lucky that Einar was there in Greenland.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, we were.
Take
He
care
took
of
good care of
you.
us.
Mhm.
Otherwise, Lori would have spent all night up going researching, what do I do in Greenland with
Yeah,
five
right.
other people?
I would
I only
imagine pulling your card games out of your bag, I'm guessing, Lori, right?
Well, the funny thing is I had one card game with me, but the card game that I usually bring with me, I knew Tara had. And I thought, well, I don't need to take a copy because she has it and we'll always be together. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I should have brought it. But we did okay. We did all right with one. We did good.
I feel like the group really gelled, and the size of the group was a good size, not too big. Yeah. And because we had time on the boat very often, could really interact one-on-one with people. And I really enjoyed that, getting to know people one-on-one and having conversations. So that was really good, actually.
Yeah, Nina, I appreciate that comment. That as all of you know, and those of you who've traveled with Tara many times in Green Adventures or are new to Green Adventures, it's a piece of the secret sauce is to keep the intimacy with the groups, right? Small in size. This is about developing relationships, and so I appreciate you mentioning that. This is part of the reason why I've always been so attracted to the trips as well too. Especially when you have some experiences like you guys have, it makes it even more intimate. This isn't, again, I feel like you guys have talked so much about already the uniqueness of Greenland, and I can just imagine the freedom and the space and just the openness and I mean, but it's again back to environmental stewardship. I put this question in front of our Alaska people. I had just been in Alaska the week before, and I had the, I don't know if privilege is the right word, but just I had the experience to see the Harding ice field. If any of you have been to Alaska or seen any of these, but they've markered it. They basically said, here's where it was at, right? This glacier in 18X. Here's where it was at in 2015, right? And so you can just witness this change and this evolution, right, in Alaska. So I was just curious, but this is so different and so unique. But if there's even a reflection on this question, what experience, right, deepened your understanding or even your appreciation and respect for environmental stewardship?
I think there's two things. One is they showed us a map where you could see the receding glaciers, but also when we were hiking the glacier, I think it was what the guide was saying, that there was a lack of snow the last couple of snow, and to use the sled dogs, they couldn't use them because it was ice and not snow. So clearly, things were changing.
Think about innovation from a technology perspective and how we're watching it right on this side of the earth, but the innovation then that they have to come up with to do and live and be is also very unique and very different as it's all changing.
Well, and I think I feel like one thing that at least I had to consider with Greenland is, like, in Greenland itself, there's probably not a lot of environmental stewardship because, as was mentioned earlier, it is a developing country. And I think that, that's something that you have to kind of be aware of. You are seeing the consequences of poor environmental stewardship, but the people in Greenland themselves, because it's such a small country with such a small population, they're just trying to, get by. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's something that I was sort of aware of. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that well, but
yeah, no, it makes it, and it's kind of my thought as well. It's just almost there's a response, maybe even that they have to have at this point. So to be, it's a response. It's a response to what's happening perhaps globally for them, right? And to shift. But I think, and I'm sure you saw this, and I think I heard that here as well too, is just where some of the guides probably, and Inga may have shared the same. I've seen it in Iceland, I've seen it in Alaska. where the guides in Iceland, if for those of you who've been there, have said, you know, this crack in the glacier wasn't here just last week, right? This crevasse was not here. And that's where, when you're standing on these glaciers and when you're realizing what is happening, you know, in our lifetime, it's just, it's incredible.
I guess that's one thing we have to remember when we go there is, and we didn't experience that because we didn't get to talk with the local people that much, is they're more concerned about just surviving, you know, more than we are. They have to think about heating all winter. They have to think about the food all winter. So to worry about some of the environmental stuff, they're not there yet because they're in such a different living condition than what we're used to in the United States.
That's very insightful, Gail. And I don't think most would imagine and realize that. I'm going to come back to this one too. I love this. I love this so much. I feel like this is like a picture, this nighttime sky is a picture I could put on my own wall here too. I just love it. But I'll give you this question here, but I'd love for you to take it and go wherever you want. I know we're coming in towards the end of our hour here too, but to me, I've asked a lot of questions and out of my own curiosity, but wanting to, you know, to understand from you what I'm going to sign up myself, but what, you know, what this was like and what this experience was like for you. But as we think about those that are listening to this recording afterwards and what they're learning from you, just thinking about it. And I've heard a couple of tips, I think, as well too, but what advice would you give someone? Some people will just say, and I'm giving you one, just go do it. And I think I'm already there, right? But advice or thoughts for those that are listening from those that have been on the ground.
I guess my one thought was, do not expect a pretty picture all the time of the climate and the people and the way they live. You got to be flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Respect the way they live. That's a better way to put it.
Yeah.
And this trip, I think, unlike many Green Adventures trips, I would say flow very smoothly of the activities that are planned. We know, what to expect. Not to say that a surprise can come up at any time, but I think Greenland will always be more of an expedition. Their weather changes rapidly. Even on, like, at the end of our trip, we were cautioned that we may have to take a helicopter from our last city to get back to Kulisuk to get to the airport, because if the ice conditions got to be too thick and heavy during the night, we would not have been able to take a boat back. And these things just change rapidly within 24 hours. And that will always make this trip more of an expedition than some of our traditional trips. And people taking this trip have to be aware of that, and to be flexible, ready to pivot, ready to accept whatever we're handed.
And maybe add an extra day at the end, just in case, because it's possible that we might not have been able to get out of Greenland when we planned. And, if we had flights the next day from Iceland, we would have been.
You would have missed those, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah, I'm definitely hearing. So I love the word. Expedition, this flexibility, which I can see this in every single one of you guys, by the way, the ability to pivot, the ability to embrace the elements probably and change. And you can't predict what Mother Nature or what the planet, what Greenland's going to, offer up today. Amy, I think you had a thought there.
I was just going to say, bring a seating pad.
Oh yeah,
right. Something to sit on, and easily foldable hiking poles. I think at least one hiking pole, like in terms of just technical advice. Yeah. And then and I would say for somebody considering dietary issues, you got to be flexible. I don't eat animal products at home, but I did, eggs and cheese on this trip, and you got to take care of yourself. And you're just really not going to be strict vegan while you're in Greenland unless you bring all your own food.
And I'm going to add to your technical advice about we talked about treating your clothes for mosquitoes. and making sure anything mosquito related is not an option. So the netting,
bring your net.
Bring your netting, treat your clothes. There are way more mosquitoes than I ever thought there would be.
So
I mean, it wasn't it wasn't a showstopper, but it would have.
Yeah.
We said it was netting wasn't on the option list, and
that's insight, Nora, that I would not have known. So I'm so glad that came up here as well too. I mean, there's no bugs in Iceland, right? As many of us that have been there know, right? So I would have again put them on the same that maybe there's no bugs. Not true.
And they weren't the horrendous biting mosquito. I mean, I got a few mosquito bites, but I was surprised that I didn't get bit as much as I thought because the quantity of mosquitoes was huge. They were just annoying. They were super annoying, and flying in your face and your eyes and stuff all the time. So I agree with Nora that move the netting to not on the option list. Put it on the packing list.
I think there were a few of us that had a little extra protein on those hiking adventures.
Me too. Yeah. You ate the bugs.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the vegan option? I don't know.
It's vegetarian. It's fine.
You know what that says, Corinne, to me? I imagine you were smiling and talking and happy, and your mouth was open. Probably that happens to me on all these trips, right? There's a good thing in there, I think, at some point. But
I will say I brought all the other warm clothes, but I underestimated my gloves. I would say a good warm pair of gloves that are wind/waterproof.
Yes, better gloves.
Waterproof.
Lots of layers.
Yeah, and if they kayak again, make sure they're waterproof. Because I had big gloves and they were fine, happened to be waterproof. But I think I could have used a thinner. And I have kayaking gloves, and I looked at them and said, I don't think I'm going to need these, and left them out.
Yeah.
But also with all of this and all of the things that we're saying to bring, pack light, because you have to schlep your suitcase or your duffel bag a lot, and I did not do a very good job of packing this time around because it was super last minute for me, and I regretted every extra ounce I had.
I think that was one of the best pieces of feedback Tara gave me, like on trip 2 or 3. I always overpacked, but you are responsible for carrying all of that. And you can never underestimate how many times you can wear a pair of pants, right? You really can, right? If they're good merino wool pants or whatever it is. But that's incredible advice, Karen.
Well, even the smart wool tops are so good at being able to wear those multiple times.
And the socks.
And same thing, merino wool socks. But the thing about carrying your stuff, what also makes it different in Greenland is that it's often uphill. A lot of uphill.
Both ways.
Carrying it up the gangplank from the boats we were on.
No wheels on those duffels.
No wheels.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you walked away with.
Yeah. I thought when I was going is I basically packed like I was going on a backpacking trip. So stuff that I would be willing to carry for a week on a backpacking trip is how I packed.
Good job.
So you were right on.
So,
yeah.
Except for the swimsuit and the flip-flops. Oh, that I would say you don't need flip-flops for the spa.
No.
Right.
That was a pair of shoes that I carried the whole time and didn't use.
Okay. Thank you so very much. I think I'll just maybe ask if there's anything else that you'd want to share with folks before we end the recording here. This was incredible for me. It gave me so much insight. I can't wait to sign up for it. I know what to bring and what not to bring and what to expect. And I'm pretty excited myself. So any other closing thoughts from anyone?
It's great to see everybody again.
It is. It's fun to hear what everybody thought of the experience.
This was an amazing group of gals.
I miss all your faces.
I know.
When do we have to figure out a
reason to get to West Virginia there, Nina.
There you go. That's all right.
See?
Yeah. I would do that.
Yeah, road trip.
Yeah.
And then up to Karen's to see her new place.
New
Oh,
house.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Mine will be done hopefully the end of next month. So Wisconsin in fall.
And then we'll have
Oh,
to see
man.
Lori at some point. If we go up to Wisconsin, we'll head over to
Me.
oh yeah,
Lori.
Chicago.
Lori. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah,
those
yeah.
of you out there, I'm
I'll
gonna
tell you.
close the recording here and just hold with me, participants here. But for those of you listening here, what I love about how this is concluding is there are lifelong friends that are made on
Oh,
these
yeah.
trips, and I can feel this already in this group. I felt that in every single group that I've been a part of as well too. So for me, that's one of the best parts of these trips.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Greenland people. You guys, I can't wait to travel with you, or hope to travel with you in the future.
Well, thank you.
1 second here.
There we go.
I gotta stop.
She stopped recording.
I don't know if I did it. Pause. Here it is.